Hello and welcome to the IBM Ahead of Price webinar. I am your presenter, BA. This webinar is being hosted on February 21st, 2013. Let's get started. What you're looking at is the stock price of IBM, and the red line is the cycle dates that have been posted in advance in the Wheels in the Sky site. Now, what's interesting about this, and we haven't really talked about that on the board, is each one of these market calls, each date, has a specific price point that price is heading to, and it's knowable in advance, and that was one of W.D. Ganns' greatest secrets. Okay, and we're going to be talking more about that, but for now I want you to know that every one of these red ones, where it shifts from going up to going down, you know, there's a high here. That high point has a very specific price point that's knowable in advance through W.D. Ganns systems and cycles. We'll be getting more into that. That's our focus. Okay, just sit back, relax. I'm going to talk to you about some things first to kind of build up to that. The IBM series was actually started by Peter from TAC, applying a type of cycle to IBM in June, July of 2012. And you can go back on the Wheels in the Sky Yahoo site board or in the Solaris site and look at those June, July 2012 posts on IBM. In early August 2012, I did some time cycle work. It's a different type of cycle. Time cycle work on IBM, and realized that showing as much of the work as possible in WITS would help some, as the series points the way. I began posting on the series and live tracking IBM in early August of 2012. Okay, so you can go back there. I think to date it's probably among some of my most important contributions to the field. And the reason for that primarily is because it takes you through, it's meant to take you through step by step the path that someone's going to take from just learning cycles up to working with price and larger cycles and so on. It's meant to actually show the path, and no one's ever did that before. You know, there's been little snippets here and snippets there, but no one's actually shown how the elements come together, showing the process and all that stuff. And that's why I think it's so important. And, you know, and I've gotten a lot of great feedback from people that say, you know, hey BA, thank you, this series is helping me out so much. I understand this because it's really being applied real time. Now, at this time, I haven't traded IBM since 1997, and back then when I was trading, it wasn't through any specific W.D. Ganns methods. Okay, so as of this date, February 21st, I have not yet traded IBM, but I'm already to the point in the series where you get to the point in this and you're going, man, this is stupid not to be trading. Okay, you know, you want to, at some point you'll be going, look at all this opportunity I'm missing. You know, I knew that was going to happen. It happened exactly as I predicted. I should have been in on that and profited from it. That's the goal of the trader. Okay, and this series is at that point where that's personally what I'm feeling. You know, and I know I've gotten that type of input from other people. Okay, the goal of the series later, like I said, that was my original goal. The goal of the series later became twofold. One, of course, was, like I've been talking about, was to show a path that the Ganns student can take to meet with success. Okay. Number two is to use what we will call the do-little principle. I'm going to explain that to you. What is that do-little principle? Well, in World War II, in order to begin the retaliation for Pearl Harbor, an idea was concocted to fly 16 B-25 bombers off a short aircraft carrier, the USS Hornet. Jimmy Doolittle was put in command of getting the B-25s off the carrier and to lead the mission. These planes had just a few hundred feet to get airborne off the carrier. And these were bombers, okay? These weren't modern day jets. Remember, this is World War II. These weren't modern day jets, you know, with jet engines that can take off in 60 feet. You know, or now we got the British Harriers that just go straight up. You know, this was prior to all that, okay? And you're talking about bombers, not attack planes, but bombers, a heavy bomber off in just a few hundred feet. Well, it had never been done. No one had ever launched bombers off of a U.S. aircraft carrier. So the pilots of the B-25s began to do these exercises in order to practice for the real takeoff, okay? And what they were doing is they put these planes, the B-25s, on an airstrip. So, you know, actually, you know, and they marked off, they said, okay, this line, and they marked it off with a line. After this line, there's nothing in front of you but the ocean. Now, this, again, was on an airfield. Okay, but they were practicing, and they said, so your wheels have to be above in the air by the time this line is crossed, because if they're not, you're going to go into the ocean. And so one by one, these pilots lined up, and they kept missing. You know, they kept, it was called rolling the line. They'd roll across the line, their wheels would still be on the ground at the other side of the line. Okay? So what Doolittle did was, he was in command of this mission, and he realized the importance of it. He put all those pilots on the line. He said, I've had it. You fellows get on the line. I'm going to show you how it's done. So he put them all on the line, and he went back. He fired up a B-25, and he started heading towards the line. By the time he reached the line, he was 6 feet in the air. He was the first. Ironically, after that, the other pilots, one by one, when they went back and they tried, were able to get their planes in the air before reaching the line. Now, what had changed? What had really changed? The belief that it could be done. That is what changed. That's the only element that had changed within the minds of those other pilots. Nothing else was physically changed other than the belief that it was possible. Okay, you see that? You see that? So it occurred to me, you know, I was actually in kind of a conversation with what do you call that when there's a bunch of guys all talking on Skype, community conversation, whatever that is. I was actually in that in August of 2012, and I realized, I was like, you know what? I'm going to have to lead by example. I'm going to have to use the Doolittle principle, you know, and lead by example. And that's exactly, you know, here we are in February, 6 months later. We're in February of 2013, after 6 months, and you would not believe the number of emails I get. BA, how are you doing that? How are you able to make those calls on IBM? How are you doing this? And some of these guys, you know, I know very close, you know, and I tell them this is the same stuff I've showed you, man. You know, and that's all that's going on. It's the Doolittle principle, you know. And so I later on, as the series progressed, I realized that was very important for people to see, is someone else coming up from this stuff, you know, because then they can't say it can't be done, because there's proof out there that it can be done. Now, I'll tell you something. The IBM series, we're in February 21st here. The IBM series, all of the turn dates that have been forecasted publicly in the WITS forum, have come from September of 2012. I haven't did any cycle work in September 2012. And my friend Russell posted in there, because Russell was with me when I did the IBM work in September 2012. And I haven't changed one thing when it comes to the cycles in IBM. I haven't gone back and changed anything, because you get these guys and they're working with the cycles. It seems like every month they're making, you know, 5 or 6 changes or whatever. No. Every month it's been put in WITS before the beginning of the month, or, you know, within a day or two or whatever, the forecast for the month. And it all comes from September 2012. None of it's changed, and we're still writing on that. Now, I posted in the March of 2013 forecast. I posted that into WIT on December 13th, 2012, over 2 months ago. Remember, this is only late February, and so I posted March's forecast in December. 2 months back already. Now, why did I do that? Because W.D. Ganns said it's just as easy to figure a year or two in advance as it is to figure 100 years. Well, you know, yeah, I could run these cycles out for 200 years, but you know what? You and I aren't going to be around to see whether I'm correct or not. So that does me absolutely no good. So what I'm doing here is I'm using months, okay? And this March, I'm not going to make any changes to the March forecast that was put in WITS over 2 months ago. I'm not going to make any changes to it, and it will be just as accurate as the other forecasts. You know, and the work came from, at that point, by the time March finishes, 6 months ago. Okay, these cycles can be ran out years in advance. I could do the same thing for March of 2017 if I wanted to. Okay. All right. I've got no inclination to actually do that, but it goes to show you, you know, you're working with the right cycles. And listen to this. This is such a vital key. You know you're working with the right cycles when W.D. Ganns states that you can run it out years in advance. Well, if you're working with Ganns stuff, if you're really working with Ganns stuff, you can run it out into the future, months or years in advance, and be able to prove it. If you can't do that, you're not working with Ganns stuff. Okay? Yes, there's other types of cycles. Some have been talked about on WITS. Okay? There's other ways of doing it. That's fine. You know, I've made money with those cycles. I have friends that have made money with those cycles. So, you know, these are what we're talking about here is specifically W.D. Ganns time cycles. Okay, where's this information at? It's in Tunnel Through the Air. We're going to get to that. Let's get back to the program here. BA tends to go off on tangents every now and then. Let's get back to the program. Okay. Currently, generally, traders as a whole focus on price. After all, if price can be predicted, large profits should follow. I understand this logic, but believe it is flawed. Ganns taught that time is more important than price, that price is a function of time and can only be understood through an understanding of time. Therefore, the current goal of the IBM series is to get the time forecast component correct via the cycles first. Put another way, each cycle pivot has an exact price point knowable in advance that price is heading to. However, if the cycle pivot is wrong, the price point cannot be accurately forecasted. However, if the cycle pivot is wrong, the price point cannot be accurately forecasted. In other words, if the cycle's wrong, forget about price. Doesn't matter. Okay? You have to have the correct cycles operating. Okay? All right. While the current, as of February 21st, 2013, focuses on time in the IBM series, some have jumped ahead and began looking at price. This is natural and to be expected. I'm going to show you a letter from one such individual. Okay, now this is an excerpt from a letter. I blocked out who it was or whatever. But this is, you know, I've gotten similar things to this, and this is very good work. And this is someone that's saying, okay, you know, I'm trying to get an understanding of these cycles, and I'm working on price. And let's listen to what this is said. It says, I have been using angles in the following way. I track a very first impulse, a high, for instance, as a pattern that is developing or already developed, and calculate it as angle 4 by 1 or 8 by 1. Then I derive all other angles, 3, 3, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 8. I don't know how Gann did it, but I do find consistently that turns occur in angles calculated that way. Attached IBM graph shows how price high today. So far, stopped just at an angle. Maybe just an intraday correction in an ongoing uptrend. I think it has to do with proportions, as just was discussed on the board. An original impulse or initial pattern tells a lot of complete pattern that is to the complete pattern that is to develop. Okay. Now this was not edited in any way. I just simply copy and pasted it. Okay. And there was more to the letter, and I took that out. Okay. But what you're seeing wasn't edited. Okay. There's some very, very good points in this. Okay. Number one, the individual is on the right track. Okay. Listen to what he says here. I think it has to do with proportions. Absolutely. Absolutely. But he's also using angles. Okay, so this is a letter that's received from a WITS member. Okay, about this, and he's been following the IBM series. Okay, and that's a good thing. I think I've heard from a lot of people that are doing this, so it became important to go ahead and talk about price and how to head that way for those that are working ahead. That's why it's called ahead of price. Okay, let's talk about price. The price points can only be understood through the cycles. Okay, the price points can only be understood through the cycles. From where you are at, the wheel of 24 is more important than the square of 9. From where you're at, the wheel of 24 is far more important than the square of 9. There are different reasons for this, with one being the way that the book Tunnel Through the Air is coded. Okay, another example of this is Revelations 4:4. Talks of the 24 elders. This wheel of 24 needs to be understood by those that go down the path of the Gann trader. The wheel of 24. Listen to what I'm saying, because I don't think anyone out there has really said this. If they have, I'm unaware of it. The wheel of 24 is far more important to you than the square of 9 at this point. The wheel of 24 is far more important to you than the square of 9 at this point. Now I know we got these new guys that come into they come into the site and all that stuff from all over the world, and they say, "BA, what about that square of 9? I want to know how that works, and all that stuff." Well, that's fine. I understand the logic there. I was at that one day. I mean, we went out and bought the actual physical square of 9 things, so you can turn it and all that stuff, not really knowing what was going on, and the sellers of those things don't know what's going on. Okay, and the reasons for that is because they operate off of a very specific cycle that's in Tunnel Through the Air, and you have to have an intimate understanding of that cycle first before the square of 9 can be understood. Okay, and that's the part that now you've got some people out there that have these subsystems. It's not really what Gann's doing, but it works. Anything that works and you're making money on, that's fine. Keep at it. More power to you. But the real use of the square of 9 is not being publicly sold out there. It's not out there. But what I'm telling you is a step above that. What you really want to know, more important than the square of 9, is the wheel of 24. And there's multiple reasons for that. Is in Tunnel, the way Tunnel's coded is you're going to have to understand the wheel of 24 first. Okay? Or you're not going to be able to find price in Tunnel. Alright? Alright. In the book Tunnel Through the Air, Gann talks about tunnels. These are price tunnels. An example would be price moving between 0 and 24. It is moving in that tunnel. The tunnel is price 0 to 24. When price moves out of this tunnel and heads up, let's say let's say it hits a price of 25, then it is in the next tunnel. These tunnels go on and on. Like say Apple selling at a price of 460. It is over 19 tunnels in the air, because 460 divided by a tunnel of 24 equals 19.16. Gann handles this on page 351. Machines for establishing tunnels through the air. Gann handles that on page 351 of his books, where he says machines for establishing tunnels through the air. Now, graphically, what you're looking at, this is IBM's stock price here, okay? Graphically, what you're looking at is tunnels through the air. Okay, these are wheels of 24. And these red lines are the Aries point, or the beginning of 0 to 360. Okay? Alright? So halfway between here, this would be Libra in this area. Libra here in this tunnel. This is page 351 of the book Tunnel Through the Air. Machines for establishing tunnels through the air. Okay? And you can see how this hits some extremely important points here, and there's reasons for that. Okay? Price is a function of time. Each pivot going to an exact price point. Each pivot is going to an exact price point. We've talked about that and I'm going to talk about it some more. Through his works, Gann mentions proportion, and it was also in that letter that I just showed you. Another word for this is ratio. An angle is a ratio, and if you look back on the charts of Gann that we have in Solaris, you will see that he draws the 1 by 1, the 1 by 2, and 2 by 1. In fact, I'm going to pull one of those up right now so you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to go to Solaris and download it right now. I just ran over to the Which Solaris site and grabbed this, the first one I saw, which was the May soybeans 1952 to 54. And what you see is the angles. This is 1 by 1 angle. No, what is that? Let's see here. Yeah, this is the 1 by 1, which was his one of the ones he uses. But you see that he draws these from important highs and lows. Okay, he doesn't draw them from like this little bump up here. He doesn't draw them from there. He draws them from significant highs and lows. And let's move through that. You can see them from here as well, drawing these lines. And if you see, like if you look at this, coming from this point, you get this line here, and this line here. Basically, it's the 2 by 1, the 1 by 1, and the 1 by 2. Those were his 3 principal angles. There's other ones for sure. Okay, and but you can see his use of them in this chart, and they're actually in all of his charts. Okay, they're actually in all of his charts, but those are his 3. There's other angles, but those are his 3 primary ones: the 2 by 1, the 1 by 1, and the 1 by 2. And what is an angle? Well, if you think about it, it's a ratio. It's a proportion. Okay, think about that. All right. Okay, now the script says, we have in Solaris, you will see he draws the 1 by 2, the 1 by 1, and the 2 by 1 all over his charts, connecting highs and lows. Anyone can begin doing this type of analysis. It means, now listen to this, it means absolutely nothing if price goes up against an angle and no cycle pivot is due. You can see that. Let's zoom in here. Let's zoom into this area. Okay. Now, up and through here, you go from a low in this area, and you essentially go up here, and then down here, and then here. Okay? So you go from a low to a high to a low, high, like that. In this area, we cross all these angles, and as you can see, it just blows right through them like they're not even there. Why is that occurring? Because there's no cycle pivot that's due. Okay, and yet you see these people, and you know 'em, you know who I'm talking about out there in the Gann world, that draw these damn angles over everything, and sometimes it'll catch it exactly, and they'll be like, "Hey, look at that! Stop right on the line." Okay, but at other times, it'll blow right through those lines. Why is that? Because there has to be a cycle pivot due. So if you think about the dynamics of that, if you really focus on that, what that's saying is, if you're expecting a cycle pivot, like the forecasts that have been going in the Wheels in the Sky site for 6 months, those points, if you're coming into one of those points and you're on an angle, and you're on an angle, that is extremely good confirmation, and anybody watching this video can begin doing that right now. Anybody. And the only thing you need are those IBM forecasts. And I get the emails all the time. I can't believe how accurate these things are. Okay, well, they're going in monthly into WITs. Okay, in March, this is February 21st, and in March, forecast has already been sitting in WITs for 2 months for IBM. Okay, that's all you need. So you've got all the elements. So you can begin working with these elements immediately. Watch when. Okay. For those of you that are following the forecast, watch when you get a cycle pivot that's in the forecast. Okay, you're on the forecast at day of the turn, and you're on one of these angles. Okay, you're going to turn. All right, this is okay. Like as an example, if you can see this here, we'll blow it up again. Keep blowing this up and getting closer and closer. As you can see this, okay, price goes down here, goes up here, and it goes hammering down here, and it stops here. Well, it stops on a line. Well, no, this is 1953, but if I was forecasting that, okay, if this was like, say, IBM stock price, exact same thing, you would have had this date here in the forecast, and you would have noticed that this line is coming up right here. Okay? Intraday, watching that, you would have been like, oh, wait a minute, I'm sitting right on the line on the forecasted day of a turn. That's a high probability scenario. Okay? You see what I'm saying? Now, here's the trick. You don't want to go nuts with all these lines, because you can draw 10 lines from each high and low. That's not what Gann has here. If you look at it, he uses primarily, as you can see, here he's got 2 angles going down, and he's got 2 going up from this one, from this high here. He's got one going down here, one going down here, one going up here, one going up here. Okay? And that's fine, but he's not using 8 up and 8 down, because by that time, it destroys the effectiveness. The most important angle is the 1 by 1. Next important is the 2 by 1 and the 1 by 2, going up or down. You see? Okay. Now another element of this, and we're going to get into this in a little bit. Another element to this is, keep in mind, this chart is a. Let's see, what is this? This is a daily chart. Okay. He does the same thing with weekly and monthly. This is a daily chart that Gann drew. This is his own handwriting. He does the same thing with daily and monthly. Keep in mind that you want a cycle pivot due, and you want to be on a line. You get those 2 confirmation factors, you got a high probability. Okay? You see that? Without those cycles, how do you know if you're going to stop at a line? Because look at this. We go crashing through this line coming down. Right here, we go crashing through that. We go blowing through these lines. Nothing going on, you see. Okay? Look at this line. Here's a line coming up from this very same bottom. The second line stopped it, but this first line coming up didn't do a damn thing. We went blowing through that line. Okay, if you would have entered there, you would have got your you know, slammed. Okay, this is, you know, from Ganns charts. We can apply these same principles today. Anybody can do this right now today. Can begin watching it. All you need is some accurate cycles, and those are being posted on a monthly basis into WITS, and then you need a few angles. Okay. Now let's take a look at 3 consecutive turns in IBM. Okay. Let's go back to the IBM and take 3 consecutive turns and take a look at what was going on in those. Okay, and I want to work with these 3 pivots. Each of these were forecasted mean turn dates. We didn't have orb pinned down back then. Remember, we were testing orb systems, but we had the mean dates here. Pivoted. Let me get in here on this trend line, turn it yellow. Okay, now these 3 pivots were forecasted in the IBM series. Okay, go ahead and write this down. Very important. I'm going to give you the information on these turns here. September 4, a low of 193.2. September 4 is a low of 193.2. September 17 is a high at 208. Okay. September 17th is a high at 208. And September 26th here is a low at 203.9. Okay. Okay, go ahead and write those down. September 26th. All these are 2012s, as can be visually seen in the dates. Okay, and it's at 203.9 is the price on that last one. Okay, and the reason why I did this, why I took 3 consecutively, is I didn't want to just do one randomly. Then, you know, people, viewing this could say, well, that was just coincidence. You know, I wanted, you know, to show these setups, and these occur. What I'm going to show you occurs time and time and time again. Okay, let's go to a spreadsheet. Okay, what you're viewing here is what's called the IBM angled sheet, and I uploaded this to WITS. I gave it to everybody about a month ago when I announced that this webinar was going to be done. It's free. If you need it, you can't find it, write me at thebay4@aol.com, and just write me at this email address and just simply ask me for the IBM Angles sheet for this webinar. I'll be happy to send it to you at no cost. It's synonymous with free. Okay. Up here, this program will use today's date. But remember what I showed you. On Ganns stuff, there was the 2x1 angle, the 45-degree angle, which is the 1x1, and the 1x2 angle. Okay. Now, on this, we've got our first date that we used with the stock was September 4 of 2012. Okay, and we had a price of 193.2. But if we look at this, if we go down to January 13th of 2012, and we go across here in months, we get a price of 193. See how this works is these are all lows. These are highs. That's how come they're marked lows and highs. And from this low, this 113.2012, the price on January 13, 2012 was 177.35. And it rose to where it was a price of 193 on the date of September 4 of 2012. You see that? So 193. So let's go back to our chart. So it crossed at 193. Let's go back to our chart and plug that in. Okay, here we are, and this is the low right here. You can see down here, grab that low, and it crossed right at 193, crossed right there. Okay, and as you can see, it hit. Now this is a daily chart, and that's a monthly configuration, but anyway, that's where it is. Look at this. This is a popular line. It hit it here, it hit it here, it stopped it here, which is our point. Within 0.2, we were 0.2 off, 20 cents off. It stopped it here. It blew through here, but of course we know why. There's no cycle due. It just blew right through like the damn thing wasn't even there. Why? Because there was no cycle due. You have to. These are all cycle pivots. You have to have one of those and coming up to a line. Where do you get the cycle information? They're being posted free in the WITS. Okay. So you can see this line. Okay, and it's calculated off of that sheet. Let's go back to that sheet. That's this point. Okay, and we'll draw an arrow in there. Let's go to. Let's go. Insert symbols. Let's so we know that we've got this accounted for. Let's go make that pink. It's not a very bright shade of pink. We'll make it green. Okay. Oop. That's why. Okay, there we go. All right. So that one hits there. That's still an active angle today. All right. So let's extend this and see where it goes. If I can. Okay, right extension. Okay, so it goes on there, and it looks like, yeah, it looks like this cycle pivot right here was on the line right here. See this coming down? We made the high. We came down here to this cycle pivot right on that line again. That's a very popular line. Well, you know, this isn't. How can I put this? This isn't Ganns' primary weapon. This is a secondary weapon, but it's something you can start doing right now, today. Okay, and anybody can draw these lines. You need the cycle pivots. I told you how to get those. Okay, let's go back. Let's take this next pivot up here. We have September 17, 2012. At a price of 208. And let's go back to our sheet and see where those lines are on September 17th of 2012. Okay, let's put September 17th of 2012. And you're going to watch all these numbers change. They changed. See? Our 193 is now 193.9. Because this was a different date. All right. Okay, if we come down here to April 3rd of 2012. Okay, we come across here, we get a price of 207.9. Remember, we're talking about a dime here, because on September 17th of 2012, our price was at 208. And here, our line coming from April 3rd comes in at 207.9. That's 0.1 off, or 10 cents. And let's go back and draw that in here. Okay. So I'm 4/3 of 12. 4/7. Okay, let's gotta get this a little bit more this way. That's probably it right there. Yep, 4/3 of 12. Okay, and it crosses at 207.9, coming down. Look at that. Okay. See that? That hits that second point. Look at that. Smash. Right on the money. Now, so we got that. We've got that accounted for. Symbols. And we're using greens to show that these are accounted for, so Mr. BA doesn't get lost in his own webinar. Alright, so we got this third point here. I told you it was September 26th of 2012. Let's go back to our sheet and enter that date. Okay. Okay, and from there what we do is we had a price of 203.9, so we search this for a price of 203.9, and we've got a 203.6 right here. Okay, and that occurred July 12 of 2012. Okay, and we've got a 203.6 and our price is 203.9. That's only 30 cents away. Okay, so let's go and draw that in from July 12 of 2012. Let's see, July 12 of 2012, and we're going 207, so we're going up this way. This is like this. Okay, and that accounts, look at how close that accounts for our third point here. And you can go on and on in this manner. Okay, now what we've did is just 3 consecutive points here. All these points could be worked the same way. I'm going to leave that to you. More importantly is that these points that have not yet occurred can be configured the same way. All you need is the turn dates, and those are posted, the forecasted turn dates are posted in the widths, and you need to draw the angles in. And from that point, when you see a forecasted turn sitting on an angle, it should tell you something. Okay, you know, it should tell you so, especially on these lines that have a lot of history to them. You see that? Especially on these lines that have a lot of history to them. This one has a lot of history going up here. How close did we get on that one up there? Boom, we nailed it. Yep, nailed it. Perfect. Okay, so that's the key here. Now I'm going to tell you something. This wasn't Ganns' primary weapon. This is to show you, okay, you jumped ahead in price. The IBM series, we're focusing on time because, like I keep telling you, we got to get that time component right. Got to get those cycles aligned correctly, and we're still on old cycles. The cycles are going to be updated to the new cycles here after March, so they should prove far better than what we've even been using to date. And I've not heard any complaints from what we've been using. Okay, so we've already got the orb solution for IBM. We're very seldom more than a day off, you know, and we've been hitting to the day a lot. Okay, so I think that's extremely important. Okay, but to do this, these ratios, these angles, as an adjunct to it. But the real money, the real McCoy, is in the Wheel of 24. You have to start working with that before you work with the square of 9. Okay? It's far more important from where you're at right now. Okay? To be cognizant of that. All right? All right. Hey, this is BA. I hope you have enjoyed the IBM Ahead of Price webinar. And over and out. Take care and enjoy your wits. Bye-bye.